Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Today is explanation of upcoming episode Throne of Seal based on novel. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. So let's start. Long Haochen calmly asked Yu Yi. After this shock, he didn't become nervous at all because he felt that his connection with Hao Yue was in no way affected, making him able to leave at any time. Instead, he wanted to see what reaction this Princess Yu Yi would show in this kind of situation. From this fact, the sincerity of the collaboration between them would be seen. Yu Yi rapidly replied, "The demon god emperor always comes to see my father when it is related to some important matters. He attaches great importance to his own security and thus will command everyone to greet him every time he comes in the inner part of the castle, using a secret technique enabling black dragons to scout through every living aura in a given area. If someone hid himself, it would very possibly be an assassin. Before His Majesty the Demon God Emperor departs, everyone will be restricted to a certain area." Long Haochen indifferently asked, "That's to say, I have to appear in front of the Demon God Emperor?" Yu Yi forced a bitter smile. "I'm afraid that is unavoidable. I didn't expect that His Majesty would come at such a time. Now, it won't be possible for you to go out since the Moon Castle's surroundings have already been sealed up. And here, we only have maids, and no males. Since you'll have to come out with me, it will definitely arouse suspicions. What should we do?" What should we do? Even given her intelligence, she clearly appeared to be in a frenetic state. And it was not surprising. If she let the Demon God Emperor know that she had some relationship with a human demon hunt squad, even her own father the Moon Demon God wouldn't be able to defend her. The Demon God Emperor loathed the demon hunt squads of the Temple Alliance the most. Suddenly, as she raised her head to take a look at Long Haochen, Yu Yi's eyes suddenly shone. "I have a solution. However, I will have to cause Captain Long to feel kind of wronged." Long Haochen appeared puzzled and asked, "What is it that came to your mind?" Yu Yi rushed to his side, saying a few sentences in a low voice, but Long Haochen's expression immediately became unsightly, resolutely refusing, "No, this is definitely out of the question." Yu Yi's eyes immediately appeared to be red, and on the verge of begging, she declared, "If we don't do this, in case this gets discovered, I'm screwed. Although I am a few years older than you, I'm still under 20. Would you really have the heart to see me being buried by your side? I haven't even ever gotten a boyfriend yet. For God's sake, please do it, okay? It will just give you a bit of grievance. You will be free of it after the Demon God Emperor leaves." Looking at her face, Long Haochen thought deep inside that this Princess Yu Yi seemed to really show some sincerity. Although she really came up with a rotten idea, it was still something greatly feasible. Furthermore, if he teleported back at such time, he would need at least 1 or 2 days of rush to hurry back, and at this time, maybe there would be some kind of disadvantageous change. "Hurry up. We can't tarry, my life is in your hands right now. Don't tell me you still don't trust me." Yu Yi was really anxious, her eyes thoroughly red, tears were on the verge of dripping from them. Long Haochen's eyebrows were completely wrinkled, but he still looked at her with force. The gate of the Moon Castle Palace opened. The Moon Demon God Agars led a group of noblemen from the Moon Clan, while everyone in the Moon Castle Palace, including the maids, was gathered, whereas the servants rapidly concentrated in the plaza in the center. The Moon Demon God Agars was about 2 meters tall, clad in a purple gown, his hair tied using a headband and draping over his shoulder to his back. His facial appearance made him appear just like a man coming out of a picture. In his pair of purple eyes, a dark golden radiance was embedded, and on his forehead, the faint trace of a bent moon was visible. In terms of appearance, Agars was the most beautiful man existing, even superior to the Demon God Emperor Fengxiu in this aspect. Though, their mannerisms could be compared. Standing right there, he very naturally became the center of the whole plaza. Everyone else's radiance was concealed by him. Among demons, the Demon God Emperor was the so-called emperor, and under him, only 2 lords could claim the title of king. One was the Moon Demon God Agars, and the other was the Demon Prophet, who greatly exceeded anyone else in the entire demon race in regards to prediction, the Star Demon God Washake. Agars was accompanied by a calm-looking girl standing at his side. With her slender figure that could be called perfect, she didn't wear any makeup, giving off a feeling of fresh, pure and almost transcendent beauty. The most astonishing was that she had a pair of black eyes similar to humans. Without a doubt, She was the most beautiful girl out there, and the only one that could be said to match the moon demon god Agar's. At Agar's back stood a dozen people. The nearest were 4 middle-aged men, all of them were handsome men like one exists among 10,000, who were the 4 so-called Great Moon Emperors, the most trusted aides of the moon demon god Agar's, serving him as his left and right arms. Behind them were a dozen middle-aged men of the Moon clan, who gave off a dense and powerful aura from their bodies. Behind them was a group of girls that had stunning appearances. One of these girls was the Princess Yu Yi. She led a group of maids, among whom the nearest to her was lowering her head. Her long black hair was spilling to the front and covered all over her shoulders, causing her facial appearance to be indiscernible from afar. Yu Yi's expression was currently quite grotesque, resisting to look at her side with great difficulty, and softly using her hands to toy with her own clothing. Visibly, she hardly managed to keep herself calm. That's right, she couldn't calm down. At that moment, her feeling of self-confidence was being shattered incommensurably. To a girl, more specifically a stunning woman like her, the greatest pride did absolutely not lie in her strength, or her spiritual energy, especially in a group so attached to appearances as the Demon Clan. Physical appearance would forever remain their first criteria. It was especially the case for the concubine at the moon demon god's side, who turned out to be a human female. By relying on her physical appearance, she had conquered all her moon clansmen. That person was Yu Yi's mother. Although her daughter couldn't succeed the throne of the moon demon god, so long as she remained as a princess, no one would strip her from her honorable position. However, a few minutes earlier, Yu Yi's self-confidence regarding her physical appearance had just crumbled. As the moon clan's princess, the chamberlains at Yu Yi's side were all female. If a male would have stood by her side, it would undoubtedly look odd. Thus, with a divine flash, the solution she thought about was to have Long Houchen cross-dress using makeup, costume, and have him act as her maid. Long Houchen was still a youth, and his body was far from having fully grown yet. Further adding the absolute perfection of his physique, it wasn't too complicated to dress him up like a girl. This was also why Long Houchen was previously unwilling to agree. Although they came to a compromise, he still felt really unwilling. The changes Yu Yi made on Long Houchen were simple. She changed his clothes to a maid attire, hid his Adam's apple with careful attention, before using makeup on his eyebrows and face, giving him a gentle and feminine look. Completing this whole process only took her a few minutes and no more. However, at the time she finished, the first person to be shocked was the creator, Yu Yi herself. Too beautiful, just too beautiful. In Yu Yi's heart, the most beautiful girl aside from herself could only be her own mother. Because of her young age, the graceful temperament she inherited from her mother, and her appeal to other people, she was nothing more but a bargaining chip. However, after finishing to put makeup on Long Houchen's face, this self-confidence, she had crumbled entirely when he slowly raised his head. She couldn't even use the word beautiful to describe Long Houchen's appearance. A tender white skin, a well-featured nose, limpid and pure eyes. Each line of this face was exquisite and delicate, carrying no flaw at all. When this was all put together, it produced an absolutely sublime result. That was perfection. His current appearance could only be described as perfect. Although he only wore maid attire, even the most gorgeous gems in this inner place would lose its gloss next to him. Yu Yi believed that if Long Houchen removed his magical eyes, exposing his original pair of golden-colored eyes, it would definitely give him an imposing look. Carrying the beauty of the sun descending to earth, Long Houchen didn't really feel the changes on his body, only feeling unwell at wearing female attire. It was fortunate that it only took a little while, and all he did since then was to blindly follow Yu's lead. Yu Yi fiddled with her own clothes, feeling extremely disturbed. She already started to regret her idea, and had repeatedly warned Long Houchen not to raise his head no matter what. If such a beauty, which already surpassed her own mother's, was caught by another nobleman from the Moon clan, it would cause great complications. Even her own father wouldn't let him off. Thinking of this point, Yu Yi couldn't help but have a grotesque expression. Had she known earlier, she would rather have had him pass for a male with an identity as Moon clan viscount. To speak frankly, it was a wonder if he wasn't actually a girl disguising herself as a male, respects to his majesty. In the midst of a high-pitched call, the whole Moon Palace plaza completely quieted down. Although Long Houchen lowered his head, he still sensed the distinct oppressive force that filled the air. How could he not become nervous? Two formidable demon gods were present. For either of them, a mere finger would be enough to easily crush him with his current level of cultivation. However, he didn't comply absolutely to Yu Yi's repeated warnings, and secretly observed these people from the Moon Clan standing in front of him. Although he merely shot a glance, it was enough for him to remember a lot with his astonishing memory. Those were the enemies he would face in the future. His current priority was at least to remember their identities, so that he could stay calm when confronting them in the future. Long Houchen was especially careful to keep the appearance of the moon demon god Agars in his mind. Footsteps sounded, and from listening to them, he already determined the identity of the one who was approaching. Agars welcomes your Altis. The moon demon god Agars bowed before him, before everyone at his back bowed as well. This was the most noble place belonging to the Moon Clan, but just like anyone else in the demon territory, they had to pay respect to the demon god emperor. The demon god emperor Fengxiu could be said to be clad in simple attire. Behind him, only 4 middle-aged people clad in black gowns were following him. He didn't have any excessive guard. Of course, these were only the people that entered the palace. The amount of guards standing outside was only known to the emperor himself. Today, the demon god emperor didn't show his tyrannical strength as back at the Exorcist Mountain Pass. Only clad in a simple black gown, he didn't even emanate his mighty aura, giving him the look of an ordinary handsome middle-aged man. Lifting his hand, he stooped on the kneeling moon demon god Agars. Worthy little brother, is there any need to be so formal between the two of us? Agars revealed a smile. Relationships aside, etiquette cannot be ignored. Your Majesty, please. Deep inside, his current thought was more like, if I did not put on a formal display, would you really not care about it? Of course, this was no more but unspoken criticism. Even with his position as the second demon god, he wasn't so different to any other demon gods in front of the demon god emperor. The supreme position of the demon god emperor wasn't something he could lightly contest with, so he naturally didn't show any dismissive behavior in front of him. The demon god emperor nodded, before starting to follow Agars into his palace. Right at that time, the demon god emperor suddenly came to a stop, looking in another direction. This seemed like an unimportant look, but even with the demon god emperor's position and cultivation, his look was filled with unconcealed disbelief. This reaction simply astonished the moon demon god Agars, who immediately followed the emperor's gaze in the same direction, and this was exactly the direction where his dearly beloved daughter Yu Yi stood. Your Majesty, you. Agars felt quite nervous, but was really unwilling for his majesty to harbor any desire towards his own beloved daughter. For a long time now, although the demon god emperor was a very powerful existence, he was still very considerate to his subordinates, and wouldn't do something that harmed their feelings. But on the other hand, if the demon god emperor had thoughts towards his daughter, how could Agars stop him? The demon god emperor shook his head. It's nothing, let's go. As he was done, he mumbled to himself a few words, but with his incredible hearing, Agars faintly heard that the demon god emperor seemed to have said, they look so alike. Agars was startled, scarcely realizing that at that time, someone else was already extremely nervous. When the demon god emperor's eyes glanced over in her direction, Yu Yi felt as if her own blood was freezing. Grasping her skirt firmly, her body was as stiff as a board, and she didn't dare to move in the slightest, inwardly yelling madly, it's over, everything is over. As the involved party, she naturally felt that the demon god emperor's glance wasn't directed at her, but at Long Houchen who stood at her side. Just at that time, when the demon god emperor went in, Long Houchen couldn't help but raise his head, and with this single motion, attracted the demon god emperor's attention, who glanced right at Long Houchen's face for a very short moment. Long Houchen felt exactly the same as Yu Yi. His brain suddenly went blank. The instant the demon god emperor's look crossed with his own, he immediately felt a terrifying energy locking up on his body, isolating it completely from the outside world. That was to say, right at that moment, even if he wanted to transport himself back through the contract with Hao Yue, he was unable to do so. Long Houchen felt regret. He shouldn't have raised his head to see the demon god emperor. He also believed that given the demon god emperor's cultivation, he would definitely find out about the attribute of the internal spiritual energy in his body. Can it be that I am going to die here? However, the following turn of events was completely out of his grasp. The demon god emperor suddenly left with the moon demon god Agars, entering in the inner palace. And he didn't made any more attention the same went for his subordinates. Why did he let me off? Hasn't he discovered my light attribute? With his cultivation level? That's impossible. Long Houchen was filled with doubts, but at the same time was rejoicing. He narrowly resisted the urge to teleport back, and finally controlled himself. If he left like this before so many people, how could Yi explain herself before her clansmen? The demon god emperor finally disappeared from everyone's line of sight, followed by the moon demon god, and at that time, every one of the moon clans stood up. During this time, a cold little hand was stretched at the side of Long Houchen's waist, pinching his skin and forcefully turning him around. Long Houchen felt in pain as his body was forcefully moved, but extraordinarily didn't show any resistance. He truly felt ashamed. If not for the fact the demon god emperor was absent-minded for some reason, Yi and himself would have been done for. I'm sorry, Long Houchen lowered his voice and said this. Yi ignored him, still putting on an unsightly expression. Her lapel was already drenched in sweat, to the extent that she simply felt as though she was about to collapse after seeing her father leave, almost falling to the ground. She understood the demon god emperor's tricks a lot better than Long Houchen, and was thus put at the peak of despair. But after this despair lessened, her body was filled with two completely different feelings, emptiness and an upsurge of relief. Her tormented face was visibly abnormally pale. By chance, no one paid attention to her as everyone's attention was still on the demon god emperor. Moon Palace Main Hall. The moon demon god invited the demon god emperor to sit down. Your Majesty, how is it that you bothered yourself to come personally? If you called, I would have been by your side in an instant. Agars said with a smile. Fengxiu waved his hand, and his four subordinates, as well as the moon god Agars' aides retreated, leaving only these two left in the main hall. From this simple detail, it could be seen how terrifying Fengxiu's position was. Even the moon demon god's clansmen didn't dare to go against his orders. Now that there are no more outsiders, we brothers shouldn't have to put on such a front. I came to look for you, first because of some important matters, and also to see you. We good brothers haven't seen each other for quite a while, since we are usually busy with all sorts of affairs. Follow me back in a moment. How about drinking to our fill tonight? I still want to have a few cups of the good human wine your daughter Yi brought back for us. Agar smiled, it will be my pleasure. I haven't been drinking at brother's place for quite a while. You wouldn't guess, this girl Yi didn't leave much of this wine to me, sending the lion's share of it to your place. You don't know how jealous I am as a father. Fengxiu smiled back to him, what is there to be jealous of? If you wanted to drink, you could just come and look for me. Only third brother and you can call me boss like this, you know. Don't tell me there could be anything in the way of the relationship between us three brothers. Agar sighed silently, third brother, this fellow, he seems to be deeply focused on some divination. I went twice to look for him, but he had kept his door locked on both occasions. Hearing Agar's words, Fengxiu's face seemed to look a bit hesitant. This period of seclusion of third brother is indeed quite long. As our great prophet that he is, he surely ran into some inconvenience. This cannot be a good thing. I really hope he won't be back with too many bad news. Agars answered with a little disapproval, what bad news could he bring? About humans. Although they raised their strength a bit over these years, they have never dared to come out of their shell. If not for the fact that boss was making use of them, with a single action from our side, could humans really have the power to resist? Fengxiu nodded but still said, second brother, you can't be too narrow-minded. After all, humans have already been reproducing and living in the continent for thousands of years. If we really went all out to handle them, the final result would possibly be disastrous for both sides. Although our odds of victory are higher, this frenetic situation would unavoidably arouse other parties' attention. At that time, how would our both injured sides be able to respond? Although we have never regarded humans as important threats, we cannot act blindly without thinking. The time hasn't come yet. After a short time of silence, Agars asked Fengxiu, boss, I have wanted to ask you for a long time, but what is this time you are waiting for? Why are we waiting to launch an all-out attack against the humans? We can't let them develop like this. We cannot look down on the human potential, you know. Fengxiu gave him a leisured look, the timing will depend on ourselves. I'd rather want our kin to acknowledge humans' existence, and to view them as a part of our own race. That would be the good timing to act against the Temple Alliance. What I want isn't to destroy it, but to assimilate it. Else, we will be left without way to grow. The human potential is something we need. Agars was startled. Boss, are you saying that we should completely acknowledge and accept humans? Fengxiu nodded. Humans are superior to us in many different aspects, and they have very deep roots on the continent. Last few years, each of my decrees was aiming for an assimilation of humanity. First, we'd aim for assimilating the humans in our own territory in this regard, before expanding slowly. And one day, we will make all humans become a part of our own strength. This will definitely make our demon race stronger. My aims are not limited to this world, but I'd wish to accomplish my deceased grandfather's ambition to start a war for the conquest of other planes. Second brother, how about letting your title of demon god be passed on to Yu Yi? Letting her inherit you. Fengxiu suddenly remarked. Agar's face greatly lost color. Boss, how can we? Our kin will definitely not accept this. Fengxiu indifferently replied, as long as you have my backing, who would dare cause trouble over this? Since we are planning to thoroughly assimilate with humans, we must be the ones to take the initiative. You shouldn't mind the fact this kid Yu Yi's progress speed is rather slow. As long as she manages to gain the ability to succeed you, her future growth is bound to even surpass yours. This is the superiority of the human potential. Thinking about this glance the demon god emperor gave Yu Yi, Agars couldn't help but feel cautious. Could it be that His Majesty is planning to dominate our moon clan? This can't be. With his strength, there's no need for him to do this. Most of all, the Devil Dragon clan has this policy of keeping their lineage pure. A change appeared on Fengxiu's expression as he continued, I'm just speaking without deep intentions. I let you think about it, and I will be respecting your opinion. If you don't want to, just let it be. Plus, you're still young, and we shouldn't rush this matter. As promised, Fengxiu changed the subject. This time, there's another reason why I had to look for you. Do you know what the fiends discovered in the desolate hissing cavern? Agars looked up. I heard a bit about this affair, but the cavern is in the fiend territory, which is why I couldn't investigate it thoroughly. Fengxiu disdainfully declared, Sami Keen is really an idiot. He lost manpower numbering over 100, but still wanted to keep all the information to himself, trying to stay low-key on the matter. Does he really think he will be able to conceal everything from me this way? Agars muttered, asking irresolutely, Boss, do you think I should get involved in this? Fengxiu shook his head and replied, there's no need. After hearing about it, I used my mental energy to examine the area around the desolate hissing cavern, and didn't discover anything, so there should be nothing valuable. Sami Keen is just looking for his own disgrace. As for his subordinates, they weren't necessarily lost in the cavern. Maybe they ran into a human demon hunt squad. Hearing those 3 words, Agar's complexion immediately became unsightly. All the demon gods loathed demon hunt squads. These unpredictable human powerhouses were a great enemy that could attack at any time. Agars alone had already been targeted by demon hunt squads over 10 times, and had once even been heavily injured. Fengxiu wrinkled his brows. This matter isn't up to much, but recently, I felt that guy's presence. Agars was shaken by these words. That guy. The one you mentioned last time. Fengxiu nodded. The heavenly calamity. When the 52nd ranked Alosser previously reported it to me, I personally went to the Exorcist Mountain Pass to verify his presence, but could not find him. However, I felt his presence for real this time. Although it was in a weak state, that aura's purity couldn't be faked. The heavenly calamity very possibly really arrived in this world. It's just that we can't tell where he is right now. Agars took a deep breath. Boss, you cannot let the heavenly calamity regain his strength no matter what, otherwise, this will be a disaster for us. In those years, our ancestors united with each other to seal him with difficulty, but it seemed that he still overcame the seal, forcing us to open a space rift to flee in this world. After such an all-out battle, shouldn't the heavenly calamity be already dead? How can he? Fengxiu shook his head. You don't know the complete truth on this matter. In those years, the situation was truly complicated, but we weren't the ones that had opened a space rift. Back then, our elders' cultivation level was far from being high enough. Only the heavenly calamity could have created the space rift. As for the detailed course of events, it's better that you don't learn about it. Agar's gazed up. Boss, speak up. If there's anything you want me to do, I will comply without hesitation. Fengxiu replied, dispatch all the powerhouses of your clan. We will launch an operation that will seemingly aim at the annihilating the human demon hunt squads, but in truth, we'll be looking for the heavenly calamity. He's still in a weak state, but nevertheless, it won't be easy to handle him. In case you discover something, don't act blindly without thinking. I'll have to be the one to intervene personally, if we want a chance to destroy him completely. You'll have to keep these matters secret. Aside from us three brothers, you can't tell anyone, not even Sami Keen. This will avoid the rise of a panic among our underlings. Yes. Fengxiu stood up, but later is soon enough. Let's have a drink first. You'll have to relax before you act. Agar smiled bitterly, let's forget about it for the time being. Hearing about the heavenly calamity, I feel uneasy and nervous. I should arrange this matter to be handled first. Boss, tell me all you know about his possible whereabouts. Fengxiu nodded. At the time I felt his aura, he was close to the desolate hissing cavern, but right afterwards he completely disappeared once again. It's as if he had never appeared there. We only have this much information right now. Command our intelligence to look through it. I leave these matters to you. Within 3 months' time, I want a report from you. I will do my best. Fengxiu gave him a cold glance. You cannot only do your best, but you have to succeed no matter what. This is a question of life and death. Although we have yet to meet the real heavenly calamity, he will possibly be able to put us in the same desperate situation as back in the past. That is how terrible this enemy is. The waiting time truly felt exhausting for Long Haochen. Lowering his head, he felt extremely uncomfortable. When the demon god emperor finally left, he luckily didn't feel his terrible glance on him again. The powerhouses of the Moon clan standing in the front were called by Agars from the main hall. And he finally followed Yu Yi back to her palace quietly. The two of them entered her palace, and Yu Yi had the maids retire, feeling just like Long Haochen, close to the verge of collapsing. The mental pressure on her was just too great. You know, right now, I really want to kill you. Yu Yi resentfully declared. Long Haochen smiled bitterly. I'm in the wrong. I shouldn't have raised my head. I didn't expect the demon god emperor's mental energy to be so sharp. After having experienced many unpredictable dangers, the goddess of luck was finally on the side of Long Haochen's group. The demon god emperor had given the order to search the whole demon territory to the moon demon god Agars, and not someone like the demon god of death Saminaga. Under such circumstances, who would dare inspect the caravan belonging to Agar's dearly beloved daughter? Moreover, the Yu Yi merchant caravan had just experienced a tragedy a short time ago in the Nerix province, causing the demon god emperor's wrath. After having punished the Nerix province for this long ago, he even had them make amends for the damage sustained by the Yu Yi merchant group. Due to all those lucky circumstances, Long Haochen managed to return to the Temple Alliance without a hitch despite the demons inspecting the whole territory in search for the heavenly calamity. Yu Yi didn't accompany the caravan. She only arranged for a time and place with Long Haochen, where they could conveniently meet, for Kia to suppress the restriction on her. After following the Yu Yi merchant group to the southeast fort, the two demon hunt squads didn't dawdle along, but directly passed the fort under Long Haochen's lead. Having arrived in the nearby Starseeker city, they settled into the rented-in rooms and were finally able to relax for the time being. Only after returning to the Temple Alliance, could they for the first time enjoy a feeling of being at home. This was the first joint operation for both of the two demon hunt squads, and they were far from being used to such a life of danger. Thus, this current period of relaxation was something they really needed. After enjoying 3 days of rest, everyone recovered from their mental stress, and they set out once again, heading directly to Holy City. The two teams needed rest and reorganization. Though they didn't completely accomplish the mission, their gains were plentiful. Be it regarding their own cultivation, the increase of their strength, or the gain of experience, they had benefited like never before. On the return trip, they made use of a rental cart. It moved very slowly, and it took them no less than 15 days to return to Holy City. These 15 days were the ideal time to recap the experiences and harvests they gained from the mission. After adding up all of his comrades' contribution points, Long Haochen discovered with shock that the total amount of contribution points they had gained from the mission reached up to 20,000. This was a number they had never expected. Admittedly, the fact that they reaped this amount, relying solely on massacring demons, was actually more accidental than anything else. But still, it was mainly because of the 21st General Grade Demon Hunt Squad's lead that they gathered such an amount. Actually, seeing the number of powerhouses of the 6th and the 7th step that died at their hands, a low final amount of contribution points would be the really odd outcome. The 4th Soldier Grade Demon Hunt Squad's contribution points were far from this amount, but by counting in the contribution points they had gathered from the period of testing, their current amount of contribution points reached 10,000. Long Houchen didn't conceal the benefits of raising their grade to the general grade. After having gone through this experience, the 4th Soldier Grade Demon Hunt Squad's strength progressed as a whole in the midst of deadly experiences. They already decided that the first thing they would do upon returning was to raise the grade of their own squad. After discussing it, the 7 members of the 21st Demon Hunt Squad decided to stop their system of equal dividing. Going through this much experience, the trust existing between them had progressed to a great level. An equal splitting led to fairness, but restricted the team's growth at the same time. Thus, everyone decided to gather their contribution points at one tile, allocating them at the times and fields of need. This was clearly the most fitting decision for the team's development. At the time the 2 Demon Hunt Squads arrived at Holy City 15 days later, they had truly spent a long time away, and everyone was already on the verge of tears. As Long Houchen suggested, the 2 Demon Hunt Squads didn't return to their respective villas, but first headed for the Demon Hunt Mission Tower to give their report on the mission. Everyone please calm down. This mission's rating was a mistake from us, and though it is our fault, there isn't anything we can do about this anymore. The mission tower is ready to compensate you for this, and will hand over a reward of 20,000 contribution points even if you have failed. Unfortunately, this staff member had still looked down on these youths bearing. Chen Yinga replied with a cold smile, "Do you think 20,000 contribution points would be enough to make us leave? You bunch of schemers. Captain, we shouldn't hand in our mission report now. Let's head to the government office. I'll look for my grandmother. Lin Xin, you two should look for your grandfather there." Long Houchen silently led the group to the exit, and the 4th Soldier Grade Demon Hunt Squad followed by habit. Under Luke Shi's lead, they followed behind and left the mission tower. That staff member's face was quite pale. What should we do? Things will get out of hand. Although he wasn't directly responsible for the wrong labeling of the mission, he was the one who assigned the mission, and furthermore, after discovering the problems with it, he evaded responsibility, and didn't report properly about his mistake. At that time, he believed that it was merely a newly formed Demon Hunt Squad, which wouldn't respond excessively upon discovering a mistake in the mission's labeling. How could he know that this new Demon Hunt Squad could be called a bunch of little princes and princesses, who immediately reacted to this affront? Not daring to slack off any longer, the staff member hurriedly reported to his higher-ups. After exiting the Demon Hunt Squad mission tower, the cold wind sobered them up. Long Houchen looked at Kia, who was lying in his arms, and a surge of rage welled up in him. If not for the mistake with the mission's labeling, how would Caia be in such a state? This was definitely something he wouldn't let slip by. That he had a kind heart didn't mean that he was meek. On the contrary, Long Houchen's character was not as upright and outspoken as his looks were good. As a captain, if he balked at such matters, how could he command his team in the future? Luke 11 went to Long Houchen's side. "Captain Long, what should we do now? Are you really planning to head to the government office? We are just 2 new Demon Hunt Squads, whereas the mission tower is the most important component of the Alliance. I'm afraid the Alliance won't be inclined to hear us out." Long Houchen took a deep breath. "The Alliance won't treat us that coldly. You may head back, Captain Luke. Leave this matter to us and we will notify you when we get news. How about it? Let's go then." Long Houchen waved his hand, leading the group of 13 to the Alliance's government office. In fact, in this holy city, the government office was the core element of the whole Alliance's administration. Coming here to claim justice was the same as giving a good slap to the mission tower. It required courage not everyone would have. Although Long Houchen was furious, he was still sober-headed, and gave it a good thought before directly going to the government office. Aside from the Alliance's government office, who else could be a match for the Demon Hunt mission tower? The majestic position of the tower wasn't something that could be easily shaken by this little group. The Alliance's government office wasn't far from the Demon Hunt mission tower, and they quickly arrived at its entrance. In spite of her young age, Chen Yinga had the worst temperament at such times. "Captain, how should we go about it?" Long Haochen replied in a deep voice, "We will be waiting in the entrance of the government office, until the Alliance make amends." "What? Just that?" Chen Yinga looked unsatisfied. Wasn't this behavior too passive? However, Long Haochen's next motion shocked everyone else. This captain of the 21st General Grade Demon Hunt Squad immediately sat cross-legged in front of the entrance of the Alliance's government office. Kia sat at his lap, safely held in his embrace. The location he chose was only 3 meters away from the gate of the office, and although he didn't block the entrance, this positioning could only be described as aggressive. At the entrance of the Alliance's government office stood 2 guards, who looked stupefied at this scene. Seeing this group of youngsters sit down, they didn't believe their eyes. So there actually exist people who would dare to protest at the gate of the Alliance's government office. Have they taken the wrong medicine? Under the shocked gaze of the guards, the group of 13 gathered in a row, almost blocking the entrance of the gate. "What are you doing?" the 2 guards asked after coming closer. Long Haochen raised his hand and showed them their Demon Hunt Squad insignia. The 21st General Grade Demon Hunt Squad comes with sincerity, asking for an account from the Alliance. The Alliance's government office being in the very middle of Holy City. Long Haochen and the others attracted all the surrounding gazes by performing such a stunt, but because of the Alliance's prestige, no one dared to come too close. A short time later, a black silhouette rapidly rushed out from the government office, and the one who came was no one else but the auxiliary master of the Assassin Temple, Ying Suifeng. He happened to be there at the right timing, having just run into the guards, who hurriedly told him about the happenings at the entrance. Ying Suifeng wondered just who could that be so daring to have enough guts to block that door. Even if the Demon Hunt squads had a prestigious position, it didn't mean that they could damage the Alliance's face. Imagining this gave rise to concern. What kind of image would they have if every Demon Hunt squad did a boycott at the Temple Alliance's government office's entrance after the slightest grievance? What sort of scandal would that be? Thus, he was in an absolute rage when he came out. But he was immediately astonished upon seeing that those who were sitting at the doorway were precisely Long Haochen and Kia. "Long Haochen, what are you doing here?" "Just what the hell? Stand up immediately!" Ying Suifeng unhappily shouted at him. Long Haochen resolutely shook his head and replied, "If the Alliance doesn't make amends, I won't move an inch." This time, Ying Suifeng's expression changed greatly. "Bastards, these bastards of the mission tower. After having done such a thing. Rest at ease, this matter will definitely be accounted for. I pledge you this on my name as the Assassin Temple's auxiliary hall master. Children, you should get up first. This is after all the entrance of the government office. Follow me in." Hearing Long Haochen's words, Ying Suifeng's back was drenched with sweat. The others didn't know anything, but how could it be the same for him? Although Long Haochen's Demon Hunt squad was leaps away from being called powerful, what combination did they form? The grandeur of the Sign of Light and the Saint Daughter of Samsara was sufficient to make this matter a huge scandal to their 2 temples. Moreover, the others of their team weren't easy to deal with either. Long Haochen silently nodded, holding Kia to help her stand up. "Then I will be begging for your help, Hallmaster Ying." Their protest at the entrance was only for the government office to pay attention to them, and not because they wanted to look for trouble here. Since Ying Suifeng already knew about them, he would naturally show consideration for them. This video will end here. Thank you for watching.